Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the launch of Applied Leadership in Conservation. My name is Soletu Sitiki, and I am going to be your wonderful host this evening. While everyone is still joining, I am quickly going to share my screen with you. All right, so this is Applied Leadership in Conservation. While everyone is still joining, I am quickly going to hand over to my colleague Sela Malanga to share with us one of our upcoming events at ShareScreen Africa. Sela, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Soreto. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sela Malanga, as said, and I have some good news for you. But my internet is acting up, so I will just switch off my video. Yeah, so are you studying to be a ranger, or are you curious about zoonotic diseases? Are you wondering how you recognize zoonotic diseases in the world? ShareScreen Africa got you. We are hosting a workshop on the 24th and 25th July at 7 p.m. And on the 24th, we're going to have Dr. Francis. Dr. Francis is going to do an introduction on zoonosis in the world. And then on the 25th, we're going to have Dr. Khadija Juma, who is going to bring case studies to us on how you can recognize zoonotic diseases. And I'm hoping to see you all join. Thank you so much, Soreto. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Sela. Everyone, back to business of today. So today we are launching Applied Leadership in Conservation. This is an engaging extension of the Leadership for Conservation in Africa's Leadership series, building on video conversations with renowned experts across conservation fields. This series offers a practical roadmap for emerging leaders. Each expert speaker will be joined by a young conservationist to enrich the discussion. Kicking off tonight, we are starting with one of our best father and son duo, Mr. Sam Mwandha and Daniel Mwesigwa, taking us through the topic of vision and courage, the launchpad to leadership. Now I am going to introduce to you our first speaker, Daniel Mwesigwa. Daniel holds a Bachelor of Laws from Makerere University and a postgraduate diploma in legal practice from the Law Development Center in Kampala. He is currently practicing law at Otis Advocates in Kampala. Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Soletu. I hope I can be heard. Okay, I am just going to share my screen and then we shall get going. Okay, excellent. I hope everyone is seeing the screen. As I have been introduced, I am Daniel Mwesigwa. And today I am going to talk about vision and courage, the launchpad to leadership. As we have been introduced, I'll be with my father, and we should hope that the insights we share will be able to enable all of us as young conservationists to be able to build our visions. I'll start with what a vision is. A vision can be a compass to a life of meaning. A vision can be a clear idea of what you want to achieve in life. A vision can be the action that comes out of the power of imagination. And so a vision is basically something that you are setting out to do, something that you want to be. And for us young conservationists, that might be being an acclaimed conservationist in Africa. It might be you want to be the head of Sun Parks, you want to be the head of Kenya Wildlife Service, you want to be the head of Uganda Wildlife Authority. Or Possibly you are looking at being an accomplished vet or being an expert in marine wildlife. Now, those are simply examples, but vision has to be something that you are setting out for yourself to be able to pick out for yourself. So I want to look at what does it mean to build a vision. And there are 4 critical questions that we must look at as we're building our vision. And the first is, who am I? How do you define who you are? What is your identity? What are the things that define you? It could be gender, it could be your job, your values, your personality, the things you like, the things you dislike. All of those contribute to who you are. And these are very important because these affect how you mold your vision, as you must find a balance to get the best of who you are. So that can only come from understanding your identity, understanding who you actually are. The second question is, who do I want to be? What am I looking forward to being? What do I want to achieve? And this is simply reflecting on what your future could look like, basing on what your identity is and what your strength and what your passion is. So, for example, I am not particularly having a career in conservation, but because of the passion I have for conservation, I have had such an opportunity to speak about building a vision, especially as we look towards leadership in conservation. So you might be like me and your primary focus is not conservation. Probably you are involved in technology. So you want to develop IT solutions, conservation. Probably you're in business, you're in marketing, you're in finance, you want to do fundraising. Probably you are a scientist, and so you want to figure out how to deal with climate change. So all these things are what we want to be, how we are looking at the future and picking out exactly what we want to be in the future. The third question is, what do I do to get there? Now, this really looks at what are the steps needed to get to that place where the vision is achieved. And that might look like working hard. That is also learning all you can about the particular vision, the particular field that you want to get to understand in future. It is also being responsible in the field that you are working towards. It is being keen to learn. It is being ambitious. It's planning ahead, looking at what do I need to do now to get there. And all of these things, as I've mentioned them, help us to get to our vision. And the last question here is, am I fulfilled by the vision that I have chosen? There's one of my favorite songs is Are You What You Want to Be by Foster the People. And a line in the song says, I'm afraid to face God and say I was a coward. So are you fulfilled by the vision, or are you choosing something that is low-hanging fruit, something you think that is safe, something that other people are choosing? So you're going by your friends, you're going by your peers, you're going by what other people have told you. You need to be at peace. You need to find a vision that enables you to learn, to develop in several areas, and you need to question on a day-to-day basis about whether you are being fulfilled by that particular vision. And those are part of the steps on how to build a vision. Now, as we forge our vision, it's important for our vision to be ours. And that is very important because many times people pick a vision that is simply something they've picked from a friend, something they've picked from their parent, something they've picked from their mentor. So you do not own it. It's not personal to you. And because of that, then you give yourself excuses. You're not willing to put in the extra effort to achieve that particular vision. But also, as you choose this vision for yourself, it's important to strive for attainability. It's good to shoot for the stars, but you need to remember that this needs to be something that I can achieve so that you're not frustrated in the event that you're working towards something that is nearly impossible. Whereas all the companies and entities seem to choose visions that are a bit difficult to achieve. Here in Uganda, we have an organization called the AIDS Support Organization. Their vision is a world without AIDS. Now, when you think about it literally, that might be difficult to achieve. But as you build your vision as a young conservationist, it's important to strive for attainability. You also need to look at yourself. So introspection is very paramount. So look at yourself and say, am I able to put in the time that's required to work towards this vision? Is this vision sufficient? Is this vision helpful to me? Is this vision attainable? That introspection helps you to chip away at the different issues that might not help you achieve your vision and makes it clearer. You know, it's like the way you forge, the way you carve out a sculpture, just chipping away at those bits to create a proper vision that works for you. And that goes to the next, which is having an overarching vision with different mission statements. So this basically is having something at the top, a big vision. Say you want to become the head of Sandparks, for example. And now I'm not South African, but I know to get to being head of Sandparks, you must have a degree in a particular field of science. You must be able to rise through the ranks. And so having those different steps outlined and knowing what you need to do so that if you are achieving these different missions, you're getting the passion, you're getting the ability to remember, I have taken off one mission, it's on to the next, until the overarching vision is fulfilled. And something else that we need to remember is you are able to rebrand at any stage of life. Many times we fixate on a vision and sometimes it doesn't work. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't work. And so we get so stuck with that particular failure. But we should remember that you can rebrand, you can forge a new vision, and our ability to forge a new vision helps us to keep rebranding, to keep finding new ways to reinvent ourselves. And that makes us more useful in the conservation journey. And so as you continue to build a vision, it is important for you to have courage and resilience to be able to achieve the vision. Because the vision is not going to come on a silver platter. You must work for it. And that will require courage, that will require staying resilient. Now, courage is the mental or moral strength or tenacity to venture, to persevere, to withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. Now, a few examples that many of us conservationists might know of, very strong courage, if you're a ranger in a protected area, you're pursuing poachers. These poachers have guns. It's possibly night. You do not know where they've put snares, and yet you're pursuing them so that you're protecting the wildlife in that protected area. That takes courage, that takes resilience. I have seen videos of vet doctors treating lions and elephants. These are animals that could cause you harm. I know I've also seen, I think, videos of translocations where a rhino is being woken up from sleep and people have to run for their lives. That takes courage, meeting a community where wildlife was destroyed, their gardens, the elephant has come through and destroyed acres and acres of wildlife. As a community conservationist, a community warden, going into those communities to say, look, it is bad that this has been destroyed, but look at the bright side, look at the positive side that wildlife brings. That also takes courage. And on a lighter note, we have seen those of us that support the Springboks. Our favorite coach, Rasmus, has taken a few different tweaks to the way he's coaching and has taken a lot of flack from the English, from the people from New Zealand, Australia, even those in South Africa who might not agree with his methods. It has taken courage and it has taken resilience for him to stick with some of those methods. And so all of this means that we need to have courage. We need to stay resilient as we pursue our vision. Now, what might courage mean to you, the young conservationist, as you build your vision? That might mean if you want, to be a administrator in conservation, you need to apply for particular positions. You need to volunteer and network. You need to apply for grants and scholarships. But key is also acknowledging mistakes and finding solutions for a way forward as you build your vision, because you're not always going to get it right. Unfortunately, as humans, we're not perfect. And so you must, as you build that vision, remember that mistakes will be made, but mistakes can be corrected and solutions can be found. So that is a very key component. Now, I just want to look at the issue of dealing with fear, dealing with danger, dealing with difficulty. And I want to share my personal experience. Now, I did not think as a young boy that I would be who I am now. I thought I'd be a doctor. My parents tell me that I used to fear blood. I vehemently disagree. But that journey from being wanting to be a doctor set my mind. This is my vision. I want to be a doctor. And now I am in a totally different area of or profession, being a lawyer, and yet a lawyer that has, quite a strong passion for conservation. That was not a simple journey. I faced challenges in my university because law school is hard. They do tell you that law school is hard. Please take it from me. The rumors are true. Then my postgraduate diploma was also very difficult. A time where you feel alone, you feel that you do not know what to do. And that might be something that you feel familiar with as a young conservationist, you are working on this particular thing, you feel alone, you feel you don't have the required support. But as you deal with these fears, these dangers in building your vision, remember that you can pray. Remember to have belief in God. Remember that you can seek advice from mentors, from family. Remember to pause and reflect. What is this fear? Why am I having this difficulty is danger. And once you've been able to pause and to reflect and understand exactly what's causing fear, you have observed the situation, you are orienting solutions for that situation, you decide on a course of action, and then you act. It's very important for you to act to deal with the fear, to deal with the difficulty that might be blocking you from your vision. And so we are now at the point of we've found ways to deal with our fear, but now we need to make the next step into leadership. Now, many of us, of course, we are at different ages, but many of us are young. We certain times think that leadership is for those that are old, leadership is for those with experience, leadership is for those that can talk nicely. But leadership is not about a title or experience or how well you can speak a certain language, but it is about your impact. So what impact do you want to have? What impact do you want to have on those around you? What impact do you want to have on conservation efforts in your particular country, in your particular area? And because many people look at, oh my God, I don't have experience. You can only get the experience if you've started, if you've worked hard, if you're diligent, if you put in the time. So my advice to you would be start now. Start now. Take a leap of faith, jump for that opportunity, step into leadership now, and you then take your opportunity by the horns and write out and see how you're able to gain more experience as a leader. Finally, I want to talk about a few tips and takeaways as we close. First of all, just to reiterate, your vision is yours. No one else gets to determine that for you. Whether it is your parents, whether it is your mentors, whether it is your people at work, whether it's your friends, the vision must be yours. It must be specific to you. So stay true to the course, to what you have decided. And there's this famous saying, may your fears begin to bore you. That comes out of continuously working and understanding what your fears are, finding solutions to them, and gaining experience from your work. And you know, it's from your hard work that you see the fruit of your labor. So work at your vision, aim high, seek feedback, and surely you'll be able to handle your vision. You'll be able to be a super leader. You'll be able to find new techniques. Some of us are quiet, some of us are loud, and we sometimes think that the loud ones have an advantage over the quiet ones. Some of us are disciplinarian, others find ways to bring fun to the whole leadership experience. So try different things as you are a leader in conservation. If you are working with different people, find different ways of finding solutions, and that will continue to sharpen your skills. And as I close, keep adapting to the situations before you, keep adapting your vision and sharpening it to what exactly you want it to be. And find joy in what you're doing, find joy in vision, find joy in the journey that takes you to your vision. I want to close at this point. I thank you for listening to me. I will hand over to Soletu to take us through the next portion. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for such an informative session. I believe we are all going to start building our visions. As you have said, we need to ask ourselves, who am I? Who do I want to be? And what do I do to get there? And you've also reminded us that being a leader isn't a title, but rather it is about an impact. Now I am going to move on to our expert speaker, Mr. Sam Mwandha. Mr. Sam Mwandha is a seasoned conservationist with over 34 years of experience in natural resource conservation and wildlife management. He has recently retired as an executive director of Uganda Wildlife Authority and now works as a consultant in wildlife conservation and tourism. So throughout his career, Mr. Mwandha has had various leadership roles, including the head of international NGOs and administrators, and has worked with prominent institutions such as African Wildlife Foundation and the Ministry of Education, Uganda. Mr. Mwandha, is there anything that you'd like to cement on or expand on some of the things that Daniel has spoken on?
Thank you, Soletu, and thank you everybody who has joined. Nice to have all of you this evening. I probably would say two quick things. Daniel talked about the need to be fulfilled by your vision. And I'll give a direct example of myself way back in 1985 when I joined university. The choices then in Uganda was that all students were paid for by government, and so only a few could be paid for. And so you had to pick your courses carefully because you could easily end up not going to university. So my choice was medicine, which I missed by a whisker. My second choice was forestry, which I was given. But in Uganda at that time, forestry was not considered important. If you missed medicine, you were expected to go for veterinary medicine or agriculture. And those ones I chose not because I didn't have passion for them. I could not see myself being an agriculture officer or a vet doctor. And so I chose not to pick those and instead went for forestry because that's where my vision was. And so the issue of where you will be fulfilled is important. Don't be pushed into things you think are not your passion because you feel miserable there, you will not be fulfilled. This morning I was reading in our newspaper a guy who was very excellent and did his courses well at a secondary level. So when he was going to university, because he had been pushed by several people, he went to do engineering. Now, he was lucky that I think in the second or third year, he got fired by the university because of a strike they had. And when he sat back to think, he realized he wanted to do law. And so he chose to forget, even when he was called back, he left the university where he was doing engineering and went to another to do law. And he just graduated recently with a first-class degree in law. And he's looking forward to enjoying it. And he was saying, you know, when I went engineering, I was following what others wanted. So I thought that I would emphasize the need for you to be fulfilled. Your vision is your vision. It's not for your father. It's not for your mother. It's not for, and I'm saying that because I am sitting with Daniel here. And my wife is on my left. You won't see her. But it's not because of others. It's not because of your lecturers. It should be something that you are interested in. And if you have graduated, you do not need necessarily to go on with the course you did if your interest is elsewhere, because it should be something you are interested in. You are better off wasting another 3 or so years in university to get the qualification you desire than living 30 years doing a job you are not interested in. The other thing I could add on quickly is the issue of courage. When I was working with African Wildlife Foundation in 2017, the job for the head of Uganda Wildlife Authority that I've just retired from was advertised. And I had had a passion of leading the institution and making changes and making a contribution to conservation in Uganda. Whereas I was a country director for AWF in Uganda, it was better paying. I chose the less paying because of the passion I had. And it took courage because it meant I was going to get less money and I didn't know how things would work out. It was even a more complex job as a head of the authority because of the challenges that are to do with the funding, with human-wildlife conflict, with the politics and the influence it plays, rather than running a small operation or being a country director of AWF. So it was quite a challenge that required courage, and I had the courage and I moved on. I think that's what I need to add on, Seretu. Over back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mwandha. I am going to move on to our next question. And this question is based off one of your recent interviews where you were discussing finishing well as a leader. And we thought to ourselves as young leaders that we need to ask you this question: how do we then start well as leaders? How do we, start well to finish well?
Very good but difficult question. Leaders start early. Often people think that it is when you've graduated and you've gotten a job and you are an officer and you are supervising others that you're a leader. Yesterday, I saw leadership in my house. I and Daniel chose that we are going to run through this presentation. And then his sister said, "No, I must be the moderator." Unfortunately, she's not here. And we said, "But how?" And she said, just tell me what it is about. So we shared a few WhatsApp messages. She didn't have time to read them, but she knew her brother, so she provided information about her brother, and we were able then to start the conversation. And when we went on and Daniel finished, then she introduced me. You could see that she was already grabbing some of the key points. And I thought that was a very good sign that we have a leader in her. And so leadership does not start when you have a job and you are being paid. It starts early in life. And those of you, and I think the majority of you are young, you need to help your children when they are born to start taking leadership at home by giving them small assignments that help them. But okay, how do you start well? The question I would first ask is, where are you? And then I would answer that where you are, where you start from does not matter. So if you thought that to be a leader, you need to be a manager, no. Every one of us is a leader in their own right. because we probably have a home we come from. We make decisions on when we leave for work and when we come back and what to wear. And that is all to do with the decision making that is partly leadership. So where you decide you start does not matter. When I started out after my university degree, was not even where I expected to be. I started as a classroom teacher, but see where I ended. So it doesn't matter. 2, soak in all that there is to learn. And I would say read, consult, observe, participate, do everything that will help you to know things that might be useful later. And do whatever it takes. And don't worry that it is not your work. Many of us are focused on a specific job. My job is, for example, a ranger. I carry a gun, I patrol, and I catch poachers. And you are fixated on that. But what of if you actually got to learn what animals you're seeing, how their behaviors are, and when do we find them where? That information might come in handy when you are later promoted and you probably become in charge of tourism because you've already captured the information. And then I would also advise that you should be ambitious, but be patient. Don't be pushy, because many people, when they are ambitious, they think ambition means you must push. So every year you do an appraisal, you demand that you get a promotion. But you are promoted the last year. Get clear with the things you're doing now so that you have 2 years or 3 years in that position before you ask for a promotion. But we end up being pushy and we are not patient. Please be ambitious, but be patient. Then the 4th thing, which I'll end with, is be focused towards your goal. Daniel has talked about the vision. When you break down that vision, you will probably get into mission and you'll get into objectives and goals. Be focused about the goal, for example, for this year. What is it that I want to achieve? So that you are able to grow. And there will be challenges, but those challenges should not deter you. Be focused. Let me end there because I know there might be other questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mwandha, for answering our question. You know, as you were speaking, you mentioned your daughter taking leadership or showing leadership skills at her age. And you reminded me of one of our talks that we had in the Leadership for Conservation in Africa leadership series. And the talk was titled Born into Organization, and it was the person who was leading us through it was Dr. Franz Celius. So for those who have not been on the Leadership for Conservation in Africa's website and seen that we have a leadership series there, I think this one in particular might be of interest, as Mr. Mwandha has sort of mentioned a few things that were discussed or mentioned during that talk. Yeah, right. So now moving on to our next question. Mr. Mwandha, I want you to take us through your journey, because I know some of us don't know where you started. And we know that you started as a conservation warden, and well, I can't say you finished because you're still in conservation, but your most recent job, you ended as being a director, well, an executive director of Uganda Wildlife Authority. Could you kindly take us through that journey and what it took for you to get there? You know, the determination, the motivation, and the resilience it took you to get there from being a young leader to now being an expert leader in conservation.
Thank you, Soleto, for that question. I actually did not start out as a conservation warden. I started out as a classroom teacher because I couldn't get a job in conservation. And I taught for almost 3 years in a secondary school. A guy who did forestry was teaching mathematics and physics to senior 1 to senior 4 in the school where I was that time. Finally, I got a job that was related to my work with an NGO, a church NGO, as an afforestation extension worker, which job I worked in also about 2.5 years before I moved on to join the then Uganda National Parks that later transformed into Uganda Wildlife Authority when it was merged with the game department. And there, I joined as a project coordinator, working as a forester, rehabilitating degraded forests, a national park in Uganda called Mount Elgon, and later Kibale. And after working there for about 5 years, the powers that be in Uganda Wildlife Authority transferred me to headquarters. I actually had gotten bored and I was starting to look around for new jobs. And I think people in headquarters realized this man might take off. And so they transferred me to headquarters to be a conservation planner. I was the transfer meant that I was promoted from officer level, which I was at, to senior officer. And a few years, I became a manager, coordinator, responsible for all the general management plan development for the protected areas in Uganda. So after I had worked for 5 years in that office, there were some changes in administration, and then the team that was at the top had, I think, seen my potential, and they picked 3 of us to compete for the position of director. Now, a director as a head of department would report directly to the executive director, and that was about 2005. And when I became the director after those interviews, that's when I realized that I actually could be the executive director. Though I was patient, I was ambitious but patient. I was patient and waited for my time. So I worked in that position for 5 years, supervising the operations of the national parks in Uganda, until I unexpectedly had to leave in 2010. Very long story. But when I left 2010, in 2011, I was appointed to be the executive secretary of the Greater Virunga Transboundary Corporation, which is a 3-state agency set up by Rwanda, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Uganda to support the joint operations they have on the common border, originally set up for conservation of mountain gorillas, but now it is about wildlife conservation. And so I worked in that position for 2 years, and then chose to resign because I was missing the family, which was back home. And I came back to Kampala because the job was in Kigali. I came back to Kampala and worked now with African Wildlife Foundation as a senior conservation planner for 3 years before getting the promotion to be the country director for African Wildlife Foundation. Then in 2017, they advertised the position of executive director. I was approached by several people to apply, and I refused. Why did I refuse? I had applied for the same job 7 years before in 2012 and failed to get the job. I wasn't appointed and I was disappointed. So I thought I wouldn't get back. But anyhow, things of God work differently. Towards the end of the adverts, I clearly thought that I had something to offer, and I applied, I did interviews, and I got the job. And so I worked in that position for 7 years from March 2018, and I just retired in March 2025. And that's my journey. Along the way, I think I observed that I had the capacity. I'm not sure at what point, but I realized I had the capacity to lead, and it had been showing in the things I was doing and how I was motivated to be a leader at the very top. But as I said at the beginning, you can be a leader even when you are at a lower position. So it's not that you must be the head. You can be a leader as an officer and still do a marvelous job there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mwandha. I'm sure everyone has heard that you can be a leader at anywhere in your position. You don't necessarily need to hold a higher position for you to feel like a leader. And like Mr. Mwandha said, you also need to acknowledge your capacity, because he did mention that he acknowledged that he had capacity to be the executive director. And upon that acknowledgement, he indeed became the executive director at Uganda Wildlife Authority. So I guess it's important for us to acknowledge our capacity so that we can better, delve into positions that we can better use our capacity in. Everyone, you can leave your questions in the chat box so that I can later ask Mr. Mwandha, or I'll ask you to unmute and you can then ask your question directly to Mr. Mwandha. But while you guys are still typing your questions, I am going to ask Mr. Mwandha a few questions that I have from my side. So, Mr. Mwandha, I just wonder, what are the 3 things that you would advise young leaders to focus on when stepping into a position that requires them to be dedicated leaders? Not to just step in and feel in the position, but to step in and own the space and dedicate yourself to that position. Yeah, I'm quite curious. What are the 3 things that you can tell us that we really need to hone when we step into new positions?
I'm afraid, Madam Soleto, I will not give you 3 because it's difficult to give only 3. There are many, but I want to give 5, and I'll be very quick about them. First and foremost, I believe each one of us, being Africans, come from a family. And you need to keep family close, because sometimes along the journey, it gets lonely. And when it gets lonely, the best thing is to return to your family, and they encourage you and they challenge you. So keep family close. 2, be a person of integrity, a person whose word is taken as a good word. You will not change tomorrow. A person who, if given resources, will utilize the resources well and not misuse them for personal gain. Be a person of integrity. 3, I would suggest that you learn to be a person who respects others. You respect those below you. You respect those above you. You respect your peers. Because out of respect, they will be able to advise you. They will be able to challenge you. They will be able to ask your advice, because they know you are committed to respecting them even if they give you advice that you don't agree with, you will still respect them. The other is hard work. Hard work in such a way that if you're given an assignment, do it, and do it well, and do it in time. Many young people are challenged with especially delivering on time the assignments they are given. And the moment your supervisor gives you 3, 4 assignments and they all are delivered late, they will look over you and pick somebody else for that promotion that is available. I've seen that happen when I was picked to compete for the position of director. There were many other people with my qualification, with my experience in the institution that could have been picked, but only 3 of us were picked, and we were interviewed for 2 jobs, and the 2 of us who were the best were taken, one as the director, the other one as the deputy. So work hard and ensure that you deliver on time and good quality work. And then you will definitely face challenges. Challenges of a difficult supervisor, challenges of hard work, challenges of people who don't appreciate you, and many more. But those challenges are part and parcel of the world. When they come, work through them, the end will actually show that you have made a right choice to overcome those challenges. Because many people, when the challenges come, they give up. They want to run away and so on. No, don't do that. Go through the challenge and ensure that you remain steady, because the outcome at the end is surely good. So, sorry, there are not 3, there are more, but I thought that we need all of them. And there are many more, by the way, there are many more that one would think about, but those are the quick ones that I thought I would share. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mwandha. You know what? Even if you gave us 10, we wouldn't complain because we are on the needing side. So yeah,
Right.
thank you so much, Mr. Mwandha. I see there's a question from Kelvin Mwambilo. Kelvin, would you like to unmute and ask your question, or should I ask it on your behalf? So Kelvin is saying, this sounds exciting. In the local community groups, as a leader, what would you do when most
Thank you, Robert. The understanding of when, if I understand your question, when you can
Change your vision.
change your vision.
exactly
Now, I think that comes from if you've set your vision, then you're understanding the different things that you need to do to work towards that vision. Now, earlier on in my presentation, I talked about the issue of fulfillment. Now, that is a very key factor in understanding whether you are satisfied, you're fulfilled by this vision. And so, if at a particular point you feel this vision is not working for me, this vision is alien to what exactly I want to be in life, this vision might not be, pushing me to learn more, to expand my knowledge, then at that point, you can then reinvent yourself. You readapt your vision to something that you are satisfied with, something that you're fulfilled with. But as you change, I must caution you, because many times there's this situation where people want to jump from one thing to the other without necessarily putting in the work to ascertain whether the vision they had chosen earlier, previously, is something that can work for them. So you need to put in effort, to put in work into your vision. And then if you've put in time, you've put in effort, and you're saying, I'm not fulfilled by this. I don't feel that my knowledge base is expanding. I don't feel like I am doing the thing that I had earlier envisioned. That is when then you can change your vision. But it comes from introspection. It comes from putting in the effort, because it's from the effort and the introspection that you understand whether you're being satisfied, whether you're being fulfilled, and then you can make that decision. I hope that answers your question, Robert.
Yes, it does.
And if I could do just add on just slightly, you see my beautiful wife over there. If I could just add on, and that is the mother of Daniel. The issue of a vision, you normally are looking at something for 20, 30 years. Sometimes you get along the way 10, 15 years on, and you realize this is not the way to go. It is not criminal for you to change your vision. However, I would like to suggest that do not change the vision just because you have found a challenge. Because challenges will be in whatever you set out to do. Change the vision because it is something you are sure you will not be able to achieve, and it is best now to turn to something else. And Daniel is talking about it's not fulfilling you and you are not getting there, but also engage other people. They know you, they know your character, they know what you are able to do. Ask some relevant questions that will lead them to say, by the way, I think really you need to change course. But don't make the decision on your own, because sometimes challenges have just come and have caused us, to fail to deliver. I'm looking at my neighbor here. She has vision as well. She might say something. If she can introduce herself and then say something briefly.
Hi everyone, my name is Betty Mwandha. I'm a pastor, a reverend ordained in the church. So I'm a conservationist as well, and my conservation is more to do with human life, the spirituality for eternity. But as far as vision is concerned, one of the key things you need to have is the monitoring and evaluation aspects, so that you gauge whether you have reached your intended aims and where you wanted to be. For instance, did you have some indicators? Do those indicators show that you have really reached where you wanted, or maybe you are not able to achieve, or it might be more costly or something? So it's good to embed in the monitoring and the evaluation aspects, so that you are not just abstractly saying either I change or I continue, but you need to have those benchmarks to show you this is where you wanted to go, and this is either where you have reached or you may not be able to reach. Thank you.
Over back to you, Soletu.
Thank you, Mr. Mwandha, and it's a pleasure to meet Mrs. Mwandha. We should have invited her too if we knew. Yeah,
Next time.
invited her. Next time. Better
Yeah.
advised. I know I said we're closing with Robert's question, but there's a question that I would like to close with, which is from Kevin Hongson. So Kevin is saying, thank you, Mr. Sam, for this wonderful session. My question is, what opportunities do you see for young people, and what actions would you encourage us as aspiring conservationists and entrepreneurs?
That is a very good question. And I like live examples. In my household, for the last 30 years, I have been in wildlife conservation since 1994. I started before marriage, got married in 98, and immediately got my household to be part and parcel of conservation. And so you see Daniel giving examples of human-wildlife conflict and the lions that a vet is treating is because he has been in these parks. Every year we take time and visit one or two of the national parks in the country, and we see the wildlife and we discuss issues there. And so they've grown knowing that. Now, you might not have had the opportunity like Daniel has, but you are on this call today, this meeting, you are picking up things. The issue is that you start slowly and grow. So for me, the key thing here is that the opportunities arise. You can start as a young person. I started as a teacher, but I've ended up as executive director of WUA. Who knows, one day I might be even the Minister of Tourism. You never know. So the opportunities are there, and I would like to challenge you to look for them. Find institutions that are doing conservation work. You can even start your own conservation business. For example, there are people managing nurseries and selling tree seedlings. If you get land, you can plant some trees. You don't need to be employed to be a conservationist. You can be a small conservationist in a different way, not by having a profession in conservation, but where I worked in Uganda Wildlife Authority, we used the money to do work. When we are dealing with human-wildlife conflict, we needed money to do an electric fence or to do a trench. We needed money to pay the rangers, and that money came mainly from tourism. So by participating in tourism in your country, in your vicinity, you can still be making a contribution. But there are also lots of businesses, and I normally give this example. If a visitor came to any country or for tourism, that visitor will pay the airport tax. By the way, we don't normally notice that we've paid because it's on the ticket. They will pay accommodation, they will pay transport, they will pay for food, they will pay to visit the places that they will visit, some of which might be protected areas. And all of that is in a way making a contribution towards conservation. Because when the taxi driver is busy taking visitors to wherever, he will not be a poacher. So in a way, you are conserving. So let's not look at conservation just being a ranger or a warden or an executive director. But the other activities that we do along the chain have impact on the conservation that we all want to be involved in. But if the opportunity comes and you get a job, go for it, work hard, work smart, and deliver the results that I expected of you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mwandha. We are at the end of our event, and I would like to thank you and Daniel for being wonderful speakers. We've truly learned a lot from this event, and we are going to be practicing some of the things that were shared here. So we are truly grateful to your expertise, Mr. Mwandha, as a conservationist, and we are also thankful to Daniel for sharing with us as much information as he shared with us. So yeah, we have come to the end of Applied Leadership in Conservation first talk. However, we do hope to see you on the 29th of July, where we're going to have our second talk. So we hope we see you soon. Let's make this a family meeting, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. We very much appreciate. And for everybody who tuned in.